everybody, welcome back. Today is the second video in the basics playlist, and we are looking at the ammonia cycle, the nitrogen cycle. That isn't a cycle, because a cycle should end where it begins, and there is a complete cycle, but when it comes to aquariums, we're only looking at half a cycle. Okay, so TLDR for you folks. How does this make fish keeping easier for you than the first method in the first video in this list? What happens is your fish create the waste like we discussed in the first video. A bacteria develops in your tank, which converts the waste, which is very toxic, as we spoke about, into a less toxic waste, which is still toxic. And then more bacteria forms to feed on that waste, and then converts it again into an even less, drastically less toxic waste product. I mean, there's dispute whether it's even toxic or not, but to some species that are very intolerant of the end product, which is nitrate, it is toxic. And also a lot of people don't take into account the difference between acute and chronic exposure, but that's not something really for this video. So, actually getting into it, we're back with another extremely high budget production. Goldie is looking a little concerned. She doesn't, probably because there's no water in the tank. We better address that. There you go. Tank's on a bit of a slope. Somebody didn't use the shims or level the tank when they filled it, but never mind. Okay, Goldie is in her tank. So, what happens? We feed our fish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bits of food. 5 is going to be a constant for us, okay? Now, in this example, that creates 6 units, and we are just using the term units because this is arbitrary. The calculations here are not exact, okay, of ammonia. Now, ammonia is being represented by this horrendous red pen, which is definitely running out. And just so you remember, it's up here. Now, the reason I've written AM, NI, and NA is because you are not interested in the chemical symbols right now, NH3, NO2, or NO3 for those things. What you need to remember is these two. These are the ones that people get wrong. So NI is nitrite, and that is worse than nitrate. They're spelled the same, with the only difference being an I or an A. Okay, so for ease of understanding, that's what we've gone for. So, Goldie is now swimming around with 6 units of ammonia in there. We need some bacteria. The bacteria that deal with ammonia are Nitrobacter, Nitrosomonas, Nitrospira. There are also Nitrococcus and Nitrosococcus, but they're marine based, so we don't need to worry about those. So the ones we're interested in are Nitrobacter, Nitrosomonas, and Nitrospira, gram-negative bacteria, which are, now I can't ever say this word, chemolithoautotrophs. So what they do basically is oxidize ammonia and use that as an energy source. That's what that means. Or chemoautotrophic bacteria, they convert the ammonia down through into nitrite and then into nitrate, right? So we've got 6 units of ammonia, and for ease of math's sake, we are going to say that we have a small number of bacteria to start with, which will be the case because it takes a while to establish. So we've got 2 units of bacteria up here that are going to try and process that ammonia. Now we're going to go for a time frame of 24 hours. Right? Everything is miraculously going to happen in 24 hours. Some bacteria can multiply and even double in number in as little as 18 hours. It can take as long as 36, 48 hours, even 72 hours. Depends on pH, temperature. It's multifactorial, okay? So don't take these numbers as gospel. Just understand the concept. Now on that, those 2 bacteria can only consume 1 particle of ammonia each. in 24 hours. So now they've done that. They have consumed 2 units of ammonia. Now this has allowed that bacteria to split and divide into 4 bacteria. And in doing so, they have now created 4 units of nitrite. Now along we come, day 2, and we feed Goldie her 5 units of food. No, you're not going crazy. The red pen finally died on me. So we've had to switch to blue, which is not ideal, but we're going with it. So those 5 units of food have created 6 units of ammonia, and we had 4 left over from yesterday. But also left over from yesterday, we have 4 units of ammonia-consuming bacteria. So they are going to consume their 4 because they eat 1 a day. They need 1 a day to survive. And now they've doubled in number again. We now have 8 units of ammonia-eating bacteria. But in splitting and reproducing, but it's okay, because finally there is some nitrite-consuming bacteria in our tank. 4 of them. And they also need 1 unit to survive each day. So they've consumed 4. Now they reproduce slower than the ammonia oxidizing bacteria. And now there's only 6 of them. So this is where we are now. The next day we feed 5 units of food. And that creates another 6 units of ammonia. But it's okay, because we had 8 ammonia consuming bacteria that ate 8 each. So now we're left with 4. And that has allowed them to split and multiply into 16. 16 ammonia consuming bacteria. We're in good shape there, because for the first time, the bacteria are starting to outweigh the food supply. But over here on the nitrite side, they produce a lot of nitrite. Now we're at 24 units of nitrite, and you'll see this when you cycle your tank. Your nitrite levels will skyrocket and take a long time to come back down before they reach 0. And that's because the nitrite consuming bacteria take longer to colonize. And the whole time you're feeding, the problem is getting worse. This is why a fishless cycle is considered best for beginners. Because whilst all this is going on, you have nothing to worry about, because there's nothing alive, fish-wise, in your tank. If you get this wrong with fish in there, and there are ways to do it, then the fish suffer or die. Okay, so we have our 6 nitrifying bacteria for nitrite that are going to consume 6 units of nitrite. It's not really made much of a dent, right? And they reproduce slower. So there we go. 6 units consumed, only 3 new bacteria. Now we're up to 9. Now we feed Goldie again, and she noms it up because she loves her food. She loves her breakfast. And that creates, as we know, 6 units of ammonia. Now, we have got 16 units of ammonia consuming bacteria and only 10 units of ammonia. So whilst all the ammonia is consumed, 6 ammonia bacteria didn't get fed, and they need 1 unit a day to survive. So they died. And they have created an awful lot of nitrite. 20 units they created. Don't worry, we didn't forget the split and divide for the ones that did get fed. The ammonia consuming bacteria have now grown from 10, the ones that did get fed, into 20. We're in really good shape. Now we have 9 nitrite bacteria that ate 9 units of nitrite. And finally, the nitrate is starting to appear because they're processing it. You will start to see your nitrate levels start to rise before your nitrite levels start to fall. So now we have 18 units of nitrate. There is no way to get rid of this, right, that you need to worry about. There are ways, which we will talk about during filtration, But for the principle of the nitrogen cycle, the ammonia cycle, the way you get rid of that is by water changes. We'll discuss other ways to get rid of it in later videos. So for the actual figures of nitrate, we're not going to concentrate on that. We're not going to worry about that, okay? Because we're not going to be growing bacteria in this example that deal with nitrate. However, that is, in theory, one way to get rid of your nitrate. So the fact that they had 9 units of nitrite meant the nitrite-eating bacteria could make 5 more babies, because you can't make half a bacteria. And they got lucky this time. And the cycle goes on. We feed Goldie. She noms it up. And we get 6 units of ammonia. Now, this is where it gets interesting. There was only 6 units of ammonia available. So only 6 ammonia-eating bacteria were fed. So we only created another 6. Because only 6 that got fed could actually create more. Split and divide. So even after all of the birthing and the splitting and the dividing, we've now got less ammonia-eating bacteria than we had before. And that's because bacteria can only survive if there's enough food. You will only have enough bacteria to deal with the amount of food available. Okay? The key word again is enough. Same as you have to change enough water, you will only have enough bacteria. You will not have a surplus of bacteria hanging around waiting. Now, because only 6 were eaten, this time it only created 12 units of nitrite, which is less than the 20 from before. So we're going to start to see the nitrite levels slowly reduce as the bacteria at the top increase. They can consume more nitrite every day. So 14 units of nitrite were eaten by the 14 bacteria. Now that gives us a new number of 21 bacteria. And so it goes on and on. We feed Goldie. She noms it up. That's a bit smudgy. She makes 6 units of ammonia. That ammonia is eaten by the ammonia-eating bacteria, who split and divide and create 6 more. But 6 of the original 12 didn't get fed, so they died off. So you can see the recurring theme now. Every time you feed, ammonia is created, some get fed, they replicate, they duplicate. The ones that don't get fed die off. Now, certain types of filters, like moving bed filters, they favor the younger, hungrier, fresher bacteria. And that's better for you because they process things more efficiently. So with the older bacteria dying off, you've got a constant new supply of fresh, hungrier, more efficient bacteria. And you'll find that it stabilizes. So we can see that we are going to fluctuate now between 12, 18, 12, 18, 12, 18, as long as the food source stays constant. The moment you feed Goldie 6 bits of food instead of 5, a different number of ammonia is created. And so more bacteria will be created. More bacteria will survive. And that's how it works. So it's all relative to how much, and it's not just food, dying plant matter, that sort of stuff does create ammonia. Cool. The bioload is what it's referred to. Yes, chief component is the food you're putting in. That is the biggest impact. But it's to do with the bioload. You will only have enough bacteria to deal with the bioload you present to it. Okay, so that created another 12 units of nitrite. But we already had 21 units of nitrite-eating bacteria. So our nitrite levels are now starting to drop. And they're slower to reproduce. So we're saying that 50% make more. And now we have another 10 bacteria. So I think now we can skip the feeding and the ammonia, okay? Because we know that the 6 ammonia-eating bacteria are going to get fed, going to replicate up to 18, and then the 6 that didn't get fed are going to die and will reduce back down to 12. Okay, that, as far as now as we're concerned, ammonia is stable, so it is cycled because there is currently no ammonia present in the tank. To say there is no ammonia present in the tank is actually incorrect. It just means that it is at such a low level that your testing ability cannot identify it. Better testing capability probably could. So, Goldie got fed, ammonia happened, blah, 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 blah. 12 new units of nitrite. We have 32 units of bacteria that are now going to go to non-time. And as a result, all the nitrite was consumed. 2 will eventually die. So now, because all of the nitrite has been consumed, the bacteria will reproduce, die off, reproduce, die off, but they are consuming all detectable amounts by your testing standards, and it is therefore considered cycled. So we will not see ammonia or nitrite anymore, but we will see nitrate, which will continue to build up because it will not leave the tank if all you have is a tank of water. The plants consume it. That's the great thing. Live plants use nitrogen, NPK fertilizer, okay? Nitrates, potassium, and phosphate. So nitrogen is a huge part of the food for plants. So that's one way to get rid of it. Let's say your plants are consuming this much, and then you come along and do a 50% water change, and that gets rid of this much. And Goldie is absolutely fine, happy living in those levels. Now, what are acceptable levels? Some fish, 0 ppm. That's how it's generally dealt with, parts per million. Some fish, like orange otocinclus, bumblebee otocinclus, I have to keep those in 0 parts per million of nitrate, even though it is by far the least toxic of all. Those types of ottos will react to small amounts very quickly. 20%, 20 parts per million is a number that gets bandied around on the internet quite a lot. And what you'll find is that if you ask the question, when should I be doing a water change? A lot of people will say at 20 parts per million. The reality is those people are very unlikely to be changing water at 20 parts per million. They're probably just as lazy as you are. But they like to look good because it's the internet and they're better than you. They probably drive a Mercedes. You know the type. 40 parts per million is another number. Not the M, it's just parts per. 40 parts per million is another number that you will see on the internet quite often. And in reality, for most species easily obtainable in the aquarium hobby, and that is excluding outsiders like this, somewhere in that range is fine. Okay? 20 to 40 parts per million. A lot of people, myself included, like to try and maintain 40 parts per million because it's a planted tank. So it stands that if you have a 40 part per million tank on maintenance day, and for some reason you're doing a 50% water change, you're going to result is 20 parts per million, assuming there is no nitrate in your water source. Now, if it's RO water, RODI, distilled, there should be no nitrate in your water. It's normal to have, it's common, fairly common. Less common, it's getting less common by the minute. Some people, all right, have nitrate in their tap water. I do, at 20 parts per million, which is why I don't fertilize any of the rare Bucephalandra in their tanks. I don't fertilize Anubias tanks because 20 parts per million is a constant base. Constant, and they're slow feeding plants. So any fish food and any extra nitrates from this cycle that happen inside the tank is just extra. And yep, I cut with RODI water to make sure that I don't stray too far over the 40 parts per million. But in those tanks where a lot of tap water is used, I get up to 60 ppm in a 7-day period. I might do a 50%, which will take me down right here, right where I want to be. And then it takes 7 days to reach 60 parts per million again. 20 to 40 parts per million is where you really want to aim, in my opinion. And know that that is my opinion. It's a very popular opinion. But straying as far as 60 to 80, maybe even 100, is very unlikely to have any long-term effects on your fish if dealt with quickly and come back down to your 20 to 40 range. But once you are testing for zero ammonia, zero nitrite, and any number of nitrate, a fishless cycled tank is ready for fish. However, do not add more fish than can be sustained on the food you are feeding, your ammonia source. And this is why I believe it is better to cycle your tank using actual fish food, even if there's no fish in there, than, I don't know, Dr. Tim's ammonia in a bottle. Because you have no correlation between how much ammonia that you're dosing from that bottle and how much food that you're going to feed it takes to produce the same number of ammonia. So just cycle your tank by filling it up and putting fish food in it. That's all you got to do. And it doesn't have to be good quality fish food. You can save that for when you actually have fish. Go and buy that aquarium stuff from Asda. Yeah, that'll do. As long as it rots, breaks down, creates ammonia, you're winning at life. So we're going to leave it there. I hope everybody's understood that. If you didn't, I can't really help you because that's about as simple as I can actually make it. But like I said at the beginning, TLDR, food in makes thing, bacteria eats thing, creates other bacteria eats that thing, creates another thing, you export it, or the plants uptake it. That's pretty much it. I hope you find a reason to smile today, and moreover, I hope you have found a way to give somebody else a reason to smile today, preferably a stranger, because 8 billion people on this planet, if we all hand out one smile a day, that's a lot of people smiling, and that sounds like a much better world to live in than the one we've got right now. So I will see you in the next one.